Welcome, everyone, to the C Suite Marketing Perspectives podcast. I'm Steve McDonald, your host. And today we've got a really interesting guest and subject matter. We have all, as individuals who have led marketing departments, we've come in and we've had to take over maybe a broken marketing department. We've had to fix a marketing department. We've had to work with individuals and sometimes with individuals that just weren't going to fit in long term to the marketing department. And Tanya Stricka here is the VP of Marketing for CloudGen. And Tanya, you've done this a lot, right? You've led marketing teams in a number of different SaaS B2B companies. And so you probably didn't ever think I'm going to become an expert in fixing marketing departments, but we'd love to have you share your expertise here. But maybe just start out and give us a little bit more of a background on you and what you're doing right now at CloudGen.
Yeah, so thanks for the introduction. I'm working at CloudGen as their VP of Marketing. I've been there for about a year and a half. We're a SaaS-based company really focused on enterprise B2B software solutions in the field service and asset management market. And I basically came in and have started developing their marketing programs from the ground up. We had really gone to market with a lot of partners and hadn't done a lot of marketing in-house or, trying to get to external customers directly. So I really came in and started to do that and focus on building a marketing strategy and a plan for CloudGen to really go direct to market.
Well, that's fantastic because, our planning expertise is not only in how we're marketing the company, but how we're fostering in the marketing department. And just maybe start us off here and let us know how do you know when there's a marketing department that's broken? Because we're all individuals, right? And we're all trying to come together. So it's kind of like a big happy family that always has a little bit of dysfunction. But when you talk about a broken marketing department that needs to be fixed, what are some of the things that are indicators that there is something to fix here? What do you see?
Yeah. So, typically I've seen that people are really, they might be burned out. They might be working really hard. They might not be hitting their goals. And so they feel like they need to work harder in order to do more to try to reach those goals. But maybe that's not necessarily what we want or need them to do. Sometimes we have people that are in just bad fits for their roles. Like the company's grown and they came in to do one particular job, like maybe plan events, and all of a sudden now they're planning events and they're trying to manage creating a website, or they're trying to do landing pages for email campaigns or something that it was totally outside of the realm of what their really job capabilities and skill set lay. Or they're just maybe the organization kind of needs to reorganize a little bit. Maybe people are we're trying to figure out like what the gaps are in the team, and it's really difficult to try to figure that out. So we might not have like a content person. So someone else has been filling that role as the content person, and you need to grow the team, but maybe there's not quite enough work for there to be a full-time content person. So there might be a lot of dysfunction around roles and responsibilities, as well as team members that are really working on things that are not performing well for the company, or they're focusing their efforts on the wrong things, or they feel, I think in marketing we feel like there's this need to be everything everywhere all at once and to do all of these things. Because we see like top performing marketing teams doing all of these things, and when we're a small team, sometimes you have to kind of step back and say, what are the areas that we should be focusing on? Maybe we don't spend the effort and the time on the things that aren't delivering value for the organization. But when you come in, people are trying to do all of this and they're not being successful at it.
Yeah, and you one of the things that changes quite often, like you said it right when you came into CloudGen, what hadn't been happening, a lot of partner marketing and not a lot of external customer focused marketing. All of a sudden, that's a strategic change
Mhm.
that impacts the team that you want to have. Nike, they used to have, and I don't know if they still do this, but I used to work with Nike, and they called it the corporate athlete. And it was the person who actually could function highly no matter what you tried to have them do. And because we all have to adapt, right?
Mhm.
And we all have to take on new things and learn how to do them. But there are some specific roles and expertise that sometimes you just really need to have.
Mhm.
Um, but what are some of the signs then of that's maybe why it gets broken? But what are some of the indicators? Like, what's
Mhm.
the impact of that, as you're actually looking at performance in the company itself?
Sure. So, one of the key things I see is just, the team not hitting its performance indicators. So they're just not hitting their targets or their goals. People will have turf wars over who's doing what, right? So you might get people that are have ownership of something. They want to be responsible for something, and so they claim ownership, or they want to be seen as being kind of a subject matter expert in some things, and so they're not really willing to share their knowledge across the team. They hold things very close to their vest so that they can gain that kind of sense of power of having some kind of control when maybe things are out of control a little bit. Um, a lot of times I've come in and I've seen teams that are globally dispersed doing the same work across the team. So there's someone
Yeah.
in England, for example, doing the same work as someone that's based in California, and they're double dutying this effort when, the teams could collaborate and save some time and effort and energy by, creating a bigger picture strategy. So I see lots of like small teams in different parts of the world doing the same work. And so, that could really save a lot of time and energy if you went and took a bigger picture strategy to consolidate the effort towards something that was good. And in a lot of cases in companies, there are some differences in how you go to market in different countries, or maybe they have different regulations or rules that you need to follow. But there's a lot of common core values in the marketing department that you can take out to market. The products, generally very similar enough that you can do 85% of the work in one region and then optimize it for each individual country if you need to.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And, when one of the things that you said in there was that, we all want to succeed. We all want to grow in our careers. And so, like, having ownership and kind of holding it close, right? And not wanting to give up sometimes, you know, it's hard to have a perspective always. And that's what, as the head of the marketing department, I think you're going to be talking about here is how do you foster that teamwork, right? Because when people understand that the growth and the performance of the team reflects on all the individuals, right, as well. But maybe this would be a good time to talk a little bit about some of the fixes, right? Some of the things that take care of this turf wars and people not in the right places at the right time or the with the right expertise or just burned out. I mean, the list goes on here, right? So you've got a way of thinking and approaching this. Maybe take us down that path a little bit.
Yeah. So, to give you an example, I came into one team and it was a globally dispersed team. Several people on the team had been doing multiple jobs. So the people had left the company and they hadn't been replaced. I had a person who was really doing the job of three different people all at once. And then we had other people in parts of the organization and they had been hired in as a function, and then they had been moved to maybe a different role that wasn't, a core competency for them or in their skill set. And so they were frustrated because they were trying to learn a new job and trying to stay relevant in the company and to do what they could in order to help the team be successful, but they were running across like gaps in their skill set. So, I think one of the key things when you're dealing with this is to really listen to the team. I had individual conversations with each member of the team to talk about, things that they felt were broken with the team and kind of gather that on an individual level and then level that up so that you can have conversations across the entire team together, right? I think it's so important for us to be able to communicate well. It was really difficult, and I credit members of my team for staying up till midnight some days so that we could have global team meetings and we could all get together and talk about what we were working on so we could eliminate some of the extra work that people were doing and alleviate some of the pain of the people that were doing multiple jobs or identify even people that might have a skill set that was unidentified in the team for marketing that was a gap that we had that we were trying to have someone cover, or identify an agency that could come in and help us with, a short-term fix for some skill gaps that we might have or some needs the team had as well. So I think it's really important to have the people in the team be able to have a voice, to feel like they have some control over where things are going, that they're being heard, to have some compassion where, people are obviously burnt out and you need to kind of let them take a step back and, decide whether or not they want to continue on the path of being with the company, or maybe they wanted to make a career change, for example. Like, maybe they're not happy doing this role. And so they're just feeling like they're tired. And, the best thing to do is to try to help them find the next step in their career path, whether that be with the company or, with a different company. So, those are the very hard things to have to do, because not all the time can you just fix things and make it be, like a Disney story at the end. But
Right.
by, collaborating with the team and by getting them to talk to each other, I feel like that really does help to start to create the ties that help you become a team that's working together towards an end goal and a strategy.
And, one of the things that you started out there with, you didn't take a top down approach, right? You went out and you started talking to the individuals and saying, what do you think is broken? What do you think the problems are? What do you think the fixes are? And then you bring everybody together. Just isn't easy globally, but also nowadays with Zoom calls and things like that, we can, right? Um, but tell me a little bit about kind of developing and fostering that sense of teamwork, especially in an environment where everybody is in different time zones and everybody, we're not getting together all the time in meetings and everything. How do you help foster the sense of unity in teamwork? So it used to be we would like go out to lunch together, right? We go take a coffee break together, right? You know, you'd actually have interaction where you talked about your families and different things, and you had camaraderie that isn't always there as much today. So how do you focus on building that team kind of environment?
Yeah, I mean, I will say I don't think there's anything better than meeting in person, and I did get the team, get my teams together regularly to meet in person no matter where, they were in the world. We tried to have at least 1 day, or 2 days a year where we would get together as a team and build those personal relationships. It's just really hard to replace that in-person time with something that's, a Zoom meeting, for example, but there are a lot of ways that you can do that. And I think, one of the things that I tried to do was to put something personal when you have these Zoom meetings that were global with the team. Put something personal about, each individual, spend some time talking about, like, something fun or interesting, or, "Hey, like, let's share our hobbies. What makes
Right.
what gives you the push to get to the weekend," right? When you get to the weekend, what are you focusing on? Simple things like, let's share our favorite movie or your favorite song or your favorite recipe or something like that. I think those, kind of small capabilities of us to be able to bring people together around, a common subject or something that they like to do allows you to get to know people a little bit more personally and can help to foster those relationships that help to start to create the ties that make a good team. I also think it's really important for the team to be able to um, feel like they have some control of their destiny. So, another exercise that I really like to do is in the strategic planning part of the, marketing world, is to get everyone together and to ideate on, things that they might have thought about that they want to do. And maybe we've been stretched too thin to think, even have ideas be something that we're willing to consider, but to start to create the plan together as a team and say, I know we need to do these 5 things, and the team agrees that we need to do these 5 things, but then maybe there's like 2 or 3 things that we could do that would be interesting or fun or that we hadn't done before. That then we get the team to vote on those 2 or 3 things, of the ideas that are brought to the table, and that creates some sense of collaboration, and we've all come together and voted on them, so there's a little bit of a sense of ownership there that you decided that you wanted to do this as a team, and that helps us to collaborate as well.
My wife tells me to do that with my kids more. Don't tell them, ask them, right? So it's our human nature, right? And good ideas can come at any level,
Mhm.
right? So, if we're not asking that, we're not developing that sense of teamwork, then we're missing out on opportunities because people will learn very quickly whether or not their voice makes a difference.
Mhm.
And if they're trained that their voice doesn't make a difference, they don't have a role in what's going to happen. They're just an executor. Then how does that, in your estimation, how does that affected their performance?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think that, my philosophy is nobody wants to go to work and do a bad job. But if you feel like you don't have anyone listening to anything that you say when you go to work, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're just like, well, why am I doing all of this stuff? Right. No one's listening to my ideas, or maybe they're not listening to the fact that I feel like I'm like burned out and they're trying to figure out a way to help me offload some work, or, my manager can help by extending some deadlines in a different location, or helping me prioritize, and you don't feel like you're being listened to, then that just leads to, a total disconnect by the employee. I mean, we hear all these stories about how many people are unengaged at work these days, and the fastest way to get someone unengaged is just to not listen to them.
Yeah, yeah. And it's easy, right? It's easy in this world of online meetings where you just take care, you have your agenda of the meeting, and then it's easy to forget about all the other stuff, right? Because the meeting ended, right? You're not wrapping up and having a follow-on conversation for a couple of minutes as you're heading out to lunch or something. Like it's interesting the time that happens,
Mhm.
right? That we don't have just by being close in proximity is really important. Now I'm going to ask you the harder part here, okay? So the harder part is we've got somebody that's part of a broken team that's just not going to make it.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, first I would try to get them the support that they need before making any kind of decision about long term, where they go in the department. There's so many great training programs out there. And people have access to get information that they need in order to grow their skill set. And if the individual is willing and able to kind of take some training, um, that's kind of the first step that I take, is like, is there someone I can partner them with that knows this that they can learn from, or can they take some training to help kind of address the gap in the organization? Like I said, sometimes people are just so burnt out, they need a change of environment completely. There's only so much you can do to try to remove workload and other things, and sometimes you just need to help someone manage themselves out of the business, and whether that's helping them kind of do some deep digging into where they want to go next in their career, and trying to figure out where their skills are and what the fit in the job market, to introducing them to your network of people that to help them look at what other opportunities there might be out in the market. I try to be as compassionate as I possibly can. Sometimes you get someone that you just have to manage out of the business, and that's really tough. But try to do it in the most thoughtful way as possible.
And a lot of what you were just talking about there applies to everybody in the team. If you feel like not only are they given a voice in what's happening here, but you are looking out for their career development,
Mhm.
right? And so how much of that is a focus or an emphasis for you in terms of, making sure that you understand what their career objectives are, right? And what they want to be doing. And then how important is that to keeping them happy and performing well on the job?
Yeah, that's 100%. I think any good manager will tell you that they should be having those conversations with their employees on a regular basis, or at least I think they should. You need to know kind of where people see themselves in the short term, long term, where you can help someone so much by just giving them good feedback on where you think their gaps are. If they want to become you know, CMO, for example, and then you can talk to them about, how do you get leadership skills, and how do you learn how to develop strategies and other things, and really help to foster that level of energy. I mean, I feel like when I get to learn new things on the job, it's an energizing experience. And so if you have those conversations with your team members, then you can help figure out ways to help them learn and also help energize them and make it feel like it's a win-win. Like it's a win for the company because you're getting someone to increase their skill set, and it's a win for the individual because they get skills that they can then go take somewhere else if they'd like to.
It was really I had a very interesting conversation a couple of weeks ago. It was on the podcast here and it was with a CMO. We were talking about, AI and the impact on the marketing department. And that there was this real fear in a lot of marketing departments that their jobs were going to be taken away, right? That big parts of what they do, and especially in content, things like that. But instead, the CMO said, no, I actually want you to find ways to use AI. I don't want you to like try to hide it, you know, do it off on the side. Let's find ways that we're going to do it that's going to make us more productive and better overall at what we do, what we produce. So she just took a subject matter in terms of everybody wanted to learn more about AI. Everybody knows that, it's a big part of the future. It's one of the game changers that, is going to impact marketing from here on out. So instead of she went the opposite direction and said, "Hey, and we're gonna try stuff and it's not gonna work. Or we're gonna try things and it's not gonna do what we want it to do." And they started learning. They started learning about how they could use and what kind of prompts they were doing. And then it became part of the discussion of the team on what they were doing. But it's kind of like what you were talking about in terms of they know it's good for their career. So AI is just one of those things that should be, as an example, just embraced, right? So like, how do we work with this? How do we make the most out of this? Right? We should have a point of view. We're in marketing, right? And it's impacting us. So tell me a little bit more about just the the alignment. Happiness in a team is not just within, like, the marketing department. There's an ecosystem, right, that happens
Yep.
all throughout the company. And so how do you think about marketing and the ways that they can be and should be interacting with other different departments?
Yeah, I mean, as a marketing person, you have to interact with so many different departments. We interact regularly with the sales department to get feedback from them on what material they feel is working for them. We're working with the engineering department to figure out what they're developing and the product and how we can talk to our customers about solutions and what problems that might fix for them. Talking to even the finance people when we're developing our budgets and trying to figure out what we can spend. I mean, there's all the departments that you talk to on the marketing side. And it's so important to foster those relationships with people within teams outside of yours so that, we can be successful. And, I think I can credit this to an HR director that I thought was fabulous, but she had this great idea where we had these coffee meetings that were over Zoom because we were all working remotely, but we had like individual one-on-one coffee meetings with someone in a different department than ours about once every 2 or 3 weeks, and so it was a great way, and you were not allowed to talk about work. You were only allowed to talk about personal things and, share stories about, your family or your pets or your hobbies or, what you were planning for your vacation, all those things, and it was just a great way to foster relationships with people, and it makes it so much easier when you have to go to someone and say, "Hey, I really need some engineering help to understand better what this particular feature does because I'm a marketing person. Can you help translate this engineering speak into something that I can use on the marketing side?" To have someone that you've already talked to that you've established that rapport with. It's impossible to do that when you're at Zoom all the time without making an effort to go do that, to have that initial, introduce yourself to someone and spend the first couple minutes of the meeting talking about your personal life rather than what the project that you're working on. I mean, I think a lot of us in marketing are kind of type A. And so we tend to just dig right into the I'm having a meeting because of this. And you have to take a step back and really try to develop a relationship and getting to know people is just an important part of the team, the whole company and the team's ability to work together well.
So, I'm about ready to ask you a question on, hey, we've talked about a lot, and what's the main takeaway that we as an audience should be taking away from this podcast? I'm going to tell you my takeaway first. Hopefully, it doesn't ruin your takeaway. But here's my takeaway is we've been talking for about a half an hour now about all the things that we need to think about, we need to plan, we need to strategize, we need to identify to have a healthy, prosperous, productive team.
Mm.
And it's not like we had a lack of things to talk about here, right? But we get so focused on our marketing objectives, right? And our alignment with this team and, the deadlines that we have in front of us. And we're always just running and running and running. So it's easy. My takeaway is it's easy to plan for those kind of external outcomes and not plan for success internally, which is the engine that produces everything. So my takeaway is just that we need to spend a lot more time thinking about our teams and fostering our teams and talking with our teams and creating those interpersonal relationships and giving them their own voice. Uh, so now that I got to go first, I get to ask you, right? What's your takeaway?
Yeah, I mean, I think to me it's the art of listening and to really to foster relationships and to do all those things and be successful. You really do have to listen. And it's taking a step back and making the time, like you said in the beginning, you said we're not in person, we're not running into people on the way to the grab a cup of coffee or to get your lunch. And so you don't have those chance moments where you're interacting with someone in the hallway or you see someone as you're going into the office to have those physical, personal relationships with someone. So it's important for us to remember to do that on a regular basis, that at the end of the day, we're all just people wanting to do a good job and to treat people like they're a person, like they have some, they have a life outside of work, and to really try to create that personal relationship with them that goes above and beyond the deliverables that we're all charged with and the deadlines that we all have to get to every day, but to treat people as people and, to be compassionate in your job and to understand listen to their needs or to the issues that they might have, and get to know them as an individual.
Yeah, you have to be intentional about that, where kind of just a lot of it could happen around the water cooler kind of thing before. Now you have to really think about it
Yeah.
and make it something that you plan to do. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all of these insights. It's a subject that we all deal with on a regular basis, right? Fixing what's broken inside of the department, but we don't really talk about it a lot. We don't really share a lot of ideas. So, if people had follow up questions or thoughts for you, would the best way be maybe just to give them and provide here a link to your profile on LinkedIn?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay. Well, Tanya, thank you for coming on again. This has been fascinating and actually a lot of recommendations we could take into our personal lives from here too, by the way. So thank you. I appreciate it.